r/ask Reddit. What popular opinion today was an absurd notion 10 to 20 years ago? That it's totally fine and normal to meet potential future spouses, or just a random hookup, on the internet. This is true. All my friends still think I met my wife in a bar because we didn't want to come out as having met on the internet. I tell my family we met on the internet and her family we met in a frozen yogurt store. Both are correct. There is a terrorist group worse than Al-Qaeda. And literally everyone in the Islamic world would agree they're a bunch of a-holes. Sunni, duck you. Sunnis are the best. Shiite. No, duck you. Shiite is the only way. Sunni, but what about ISIS? Those guys suck. Shiite. Yeah, you're right. Those guys suck. We can set aside 1,500 years of warfare to agree. Those guys are a-holes. But other than that, everything you say is wrong. And Allah says so. Surely Ibadism is the way then. Have you heard of Oman ever invading anyone in holy war? Math teacher, you wouldn't always have a calculator in your pocket. Edit, wouldn't instead of couldn't. Still, no calculators allowed in a calculus test, so you're screwed if you can't do basic mental math, as well as things like sin. 90. Calculus wasn't very hard. It was the algebra within the calculus that I always messed up. Eat more healthy fats and less simple carbohydrates. Edit, if you can point out that less should have been fewer, surely you could also read the 312 other comments pointing out just that before you chime in. Thanks. The food pyramid went full circle. It keeps going around like that. For instance, the Salisbury steak is named after a Civil War doctor who was convinced that humans weren't meant to eat vegetables or grain. He literally suggested a diet primarily of ground beef. Nutrition is seriously the most ducked up science ever. The only thing it seems to have figured out is how to lose and gain weight. And even that is something people continue to struggle with. Calling people on the phone is more inconvenient than communicating via text. Edit. Apparently this is a bit of a controversial opinion. I'll qualify by saying that after the complexity of the conversation exceeds a certain threshold, calling becomes more convenient. Also, I'd consider email to be lumped in with communicating via text. If I'm just asking a simple question, I'll text. But if I actually need to talk to someone about something, then calling is the way to go. Yes, that's how it works. MapQuest sucks. I was surprised to find out recently that not only do they still exist but that 40 million people a month still use it. Granted, most of them probably look like this. Not that surprising considering that there are still 1 million people who give $20 more to AOL for dial-up. They're kinda overdoing it with all these superhero movies. Now they're really overdoing it with all these superhero movies. Overdoing it doesn't begin to cover it, and that would be fine if so many of them wasn't so aggressively mediocre. I mean, every goddamn Marvel movie these days is just a setup for the 2 next ones. They are putting so much effort into continuity, I feel like there isn't anything of substance in any of them. And now DC is doing the same shit with Superman v Batman. Right at the apex of mediocre superhero movies, DC decided to start a fresh franchise of mediocre superhero movies. I'm sick of superhero movies, except Deadpool. But that movie doesn't count because they tried to make a good movie instead of doing Marvel's checklist for approved blockbusters. Gay marriage is a pretty clear example of a public opinion that has shifted. The Defense of Marriage Act passed with the support of the majority of the public in 1996. It bars the federal government from recognizing gay marriage. In 2013, the majority of the public celebrated the Supreme Court overturning the main part of this act. Look, I don't care if the gays get married, but Gary cannot marry another Gary. What about Gary to Jerry marriages? Becoming wealthy playing a video game. Carmack gave away a Ferrari to the winner of a Quake tournament in 1997. I'm surprised I didn't see this further up. It's actually pretty insane to think about. Donald Trump has a chance at becoming president of the United States. Unlikely maybe, but I don't think the people of 2006 would consider it absurd. I'm trying to remember that clip from a long time ago that joked about Ronald Reagan becoming president, and if in due time we'll all be eating our words. $2 a gallon is a good gas price. It's better than it was a few years ago when $4 was the norm. It still blows my mind to see the over $4 gas prices when I play GTA V. I have to remind myself that it wasn't part of the social commentary or parody when the game came out. It was just the norm. Ride-sharing services like Uber. The thought of getting into a stranger's car and having them drive you around like a taxi in 1996 would have blown people's minds. I mean, taking a taxi is still sitting in a stranger's car. Having them drive you around, it's just more expensive. They paint the car yellow, though, so that makes it completely different. The Simpsons would start AR learn it'll be on TV. Or even South Park. Bruce Jenner became a woman named Caitlyn. I think this is the real winner. I can imagine gay rights and on-demand media being imaginable. But Caitlyn Bruce, I think nobody would have guessed that in the 80s edit, 90s zeros, are getting old. That Caitlyn would be an acceptable spelling. Matthew Lewis, Neville Longbottom, is attractive AF. You'd struggle to fit your cell mobile phone in your pocket. If you go back far enough, the phones are huge, then you enter the tiny flip phone era, then they start getting bigger again. I really don't see cell phones becoming tiny again unless they master a way to do it virtually through your eyes or glasses. That taking pictures of your lunch and showing them to people would be normal behavior. 1996. Hey, check this out. I just got my pictures back from the developer and, look, I had this grilled cheese for lunch 3 weeks ago over at Bob's House of Grilled Cheese. Yep, that's great dude. Open bracket. I really need to stop talking to Cut and Riss. 2016. Hey, check this out. I had this grilled cheese for lunch over at Bob's House of Grilled Cheese. OMG. So good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. In Sweden, 1979 or early 80s being gay was considered as illness. Swedish folks would call for their jobs saying they feel gay so they don't want to go work. Morning Eric. Feeling a strong urge for dong this morning. Think I'll stay home no problem Bjorn. Be sure to watch some heterosexual porn and try to think of hot chicks all day. That usually fixes me right up. That is hilarious boss. Hello employee, I feel gay today. Can't come in boss. We don't want to risk having a sick employee in the office. Get some rest and be back tomorrow. Hangs up. That floppy disk you have? There will be a tiny thing on your keyring that can hold a terabyte. The equivalent of 1 million of those. You'll be able to have around 10,000 albums on your keyring. Or 1,000 plus films. Wow mister. That's amazing. In 20 years will my phone have a battery that lasts a year? Ruffling hair focus on the keyring gimme. Focus on that keyring. We may cry about battery times but considering what we ask our phones to do without an attached SU we have come a long way. The poor thing is in constant communication with cell towers and satellites. Connected to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatever other social media you're on 24/7. Takes countless high resolutions of your face or your food, uploads those HD photos in seconds, stores hundreds of hours of HD video and thousands of hours of digital music. It's probably playing or streaming something into your ears and or eyes right now. Your phone battery literally works itself to death just so you can continue to shitpost 24/7. You scold it for nearly dying, and then deny it the sweet release of death by pumping artificial life into it to continue the routine again tomorrow. 20 years ago, it's okay for adults to play video games. 10 years ago, newspapers are becoming obsolete. That was to be expected. The Nintendo generation is now in its 40 IES/50 IES. You didn't think we'd stop playing games just because we grew older? Print is becoming obsolete, but journalism isn't. I remember when 10 years ago people were excited by citizen reporters. Now we have a lot of people repeating rumors and others lapping it up. I am actually disgusted by that. Now we have journalists copying bloggers just to stay competitive. We have this absurd situation where comedians and satirists are considered trustworthy. Jon Stewart always blinked twice in confusion when he was confronted with that. It's okay to have your credit card number on your receipt. I look back on those days and shudder. Back then my state would put your social security number on your license, but it was optional. However, most people did it so they didn't have to carry their social security card. I had to fight with the DMV person that I didn't want my social blasted on my license. She was like, but it's great, you won't need your social card. I said I rarely show or carry my social card. Actually only when doing government stuff like renewing my license. I think I can manage to throw it in my pocket every 5 years. Still had to fight with her for a few more minutes before she went ahead without adding it on. You crazy kids with your torrents and broadband will never understand the struggles of Napster and RAS. Downloading 130-50 millibars music album overnight while you slept, hoping the dial-up didn't get disconnected during the night. Or finding out that instead of Mambo number 5 it was a recording of Bill Clinton saying I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Miss Lewinsky again. A little bit of Monica in my life. Bill Cosby is a rapist. Technically, Bill Cosby is only an alleged rapist who's been accused by dozens of women of drugging them and raping them using the same M.O. over a period of decades, and who even joked about using drugs to render women unconscious and rape them. So don't forget to use the word alleged when you say that Bill Cosby is a ducking scumbag piece of shit rapist. Gay rights. I've posted before that I was raised super conservative. My family was the absolute worst about it, but now even they are a lot more accepting. Thank God. Edit. I said thank God for my parents being more accepting, not for gay rights changing. Enough with the messages about your beliefs. Anti-vaccination. You shouldn't smoke in bars, restaurants, or public in general. I think you're underestimating how long the anti-smoking movement has been around. The US government is reading our emails and phone calls. 20 years ago, this would be A. unfeasible or B. a wild conspiracy theory. It wasn't unfeasible. If anything, it was much easier. That the telephone you carry in your pocket, the one that takes amazing photos and videos and allows you to access the internet from almost anywhere, had better be able to send a picture halfway around the world in less than 1 second, or it's a piece of shit. Bad handwriting will ruin your career, huh? For me it's cursive writing. 10 years ago all my teachers told me I would be writing in it all the time. I learned cursive in primary school, told I'd be expected to use it from then on. By almost the exact following year, we were all told to stop using it because it was too difficult for the teachers to read. I'm allergic to gluten. Edit. T. 15 years ago it would just be oh you mean you have celiac? Nick Cage would flop as an actor. Praise be to him. Amen. r/on a true god. That I have 256 GB micro SD cards with hundreds of movies on it. Purchased legally, of course. Having a black president maybe wouldn't have been absurd but close to it. Oddly enough, it also seems like most people thought we beat racism back in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't until Obama got elected that racism went mainstream again. 18 years ago, 1998, that the best qualified candidate for president in 18 years would be Bill Clinton's wife. We were in Lewinsky land in those days. To the public, she was the long-suffering, betrayed spouse. Edit. It's not necessarily my opinion, but it's a popular one. Also changed years to 18 to match up correctly with Minicagut. That you shouldn't spank your children. At least, my parents thought that was an absurd notion 20 years ago. As a child everyone always laughed at how I thought animals had feelings and things like that. Like the idea of animal consciousness was absurd. Today it's pretty accepted that animals feel their own suite of emotions. And we've even come to a point where everyone agrees that some animals are even self-aware. LOL, I see some people still don't believe that animals are anything other than instinct machines. Renting watching movies from your home via the internet instead of going to Blockbuster or other video rental store. Both the directors of the Matrix films are now women. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.